Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Marlon,
And I'm James.
and this is Trash Talk and Tall Tales, where we just talk trash. What you got for us, James?
I don't know if I need to do a segment on this every week or every episode called James's Rants or What's Eating James. Or maybe I'll just call it It Just Don't Make No Sense.
Sounds good. I like that.
All right. One thing to me that just don't make no sense is there's people around here who are acting like they're the grammar police.
Hold on. I feel personally attacked, but please continue.
Well, you have been on that side before, but yeah, someone sitting up here saying that, you can't end a sentence with a preposition. I'm like, why not for? Who came up with this grammar? Some guy that lived in the 1500s who was wanting to talk a little bit better than their neighbors, and all of us just complied with it. I mean, it just don't make no sense to me. So, okay. Martin, I'll go ahead and let you have a couple of minutes of this, and I'll get back on my rant.
Well, when you said, who said what for? Is that what you said? Because that's
why not for?
Why not for? Because if I'm not mistaken, that's ending a sentence in a preposition, correct?
But what difference does it make?
I guess, okay, when you go to a job interview, I'm sure even you yourself will not say, what'd you say? Say again. I'm sorry. When you go to a job interview, you'll try to speak the King's English, if you will. That's what I'm calling it, the King's English. Right?
But why are we doing that? That's what I don't understand. Like, who came up with this and decided that this is the way we all need to talk? Me personally, I feel like if you understand what I'm saying, and I'm not sitting here saying cat, dog, ran, and that's supposed to stand for I'm hungry, give me some food. If you know what I meant, then what's the big deal? And part of this is because
it's professional, brother.
Okay, it's professional, but who came up with this professionalism? Who came up with that? Somebody who decided this a long time ago, probably before me and you were ever even thought about being born.
Very much so.
Said, this is the way we need to talk. This is the way we need to introduce ourselves when we're in front of other professionals. Like, it just don't make no sense to me. Like, if you understand what I'm saying, oh yeah, I'm going on it today.
By all means.
If you understand what I'm saying, then what is the difference? I think it ain't like these kids nowadays that are saying like Riz and they got their own complete language,
Okay, you're coming to the point. Keep going.
But that's a whole different language. You can't even understand what they're saying. If I say, hey, I don't understand why that's not on that their boat or whatever, you understand what I'm saying?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll let you go ahead into your.
No, I'm just thinking that because you want to be professional. You want to come across as intelligent. I think that's the main thing, is you want to come across as intelligent. Communication is key. So
understood.
If we lose communication, I mean, I guess we're still communicating. I don't know. I guess there are rules to this. Who
came up with these rules?
I'm sure it was the King's English. I'm sure it was some king set the rules. This is how we're going to talk. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is it sounds better. That's all I know. It sounds
See, you only
better.
think it sounds better because you've been taught it sounds better. They've been teaching you this since you've been in kindergarten or preschool.
Absolutely.
So like it goes back to that programming thing. But my main point is half these people out here who will critique you on for what you're saying or how you said it, like the ending the sentence with a preposition.
Okay, that's a little bit extreme.
Okay, but I have had that before. In
my personal opinion, I think that's very extreme. Now, anything less is acceptable. Anything less is acceptable.
So just when I said that just don't make no sense.
Yeah, let it go. it slide.
Yeah, I was thinking you was gonna bite on a bait on that one because I put a
No.
little. I set a little trap for you, and
No,
I guess it didn't work.
because I try to speak correctly. I do try.
I love how you put in that little ly for the
Yeah, no
what is
doubt,
that, an
no doubt.
adverb?
No. I do try. I do try. And when raising my daughter, Shorty, just in
Gotcha.
case, that's the whole nother story.
A real story.
This is a real story. I was always on her about speaking correctly for the main reason that you don't want to sound like, and I don't want to. I'm going to say it. You don't want to
You
sound
don't want to sound
ignorant.
ignorant. I
You
know it's
don't
what you
want to
where you were
sound
going.
ignorant.
Yeah.
Especially because I was trying to set her up for the future and set her up for when she was going on job interviews and speaking to the general public. Because I know my mother was heavily on me, heavily. And she did the exact same thing. And to be honest, if we dig deeper, it's probably along the same lines of how some parents name their children certain names, setting them up for the future, meaning that, and I know a lot of people are probably whatever, if a person is looking at an application and they see a certain name, immediately they're going to put it to the left. They're going to swipe left, meaning that no, this person isn't getting hired. So
I
it's the
agree.
exact same thing. When you call an employer or you want something, you know what I'm saying, for your future, you want to sound professional. So when you call that individual for a job, you're not going to say what not for. Is that what you said again? What not for?
Why not for?
Why not for? You're not going to say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Why not for? I know that doesn't make sense either way, but you know what I'm saying. That's the reason.
To a certain degree, but my point is still, if you understand what I'm saying, why are we splitting hairs here? Like I said,
think it's
this is
all
the
impression.
King's English, right? We don't have a king anymore. English is a evolving language. And like I said before, if you know what I'm talking about, then we shouldn't be hung up on prepositions or words or incorrect grammar. Like I said, are you the FGA, the Federal Grammar Agency?
No.
Are you going to drop my credit score 600 points because I said, why not for?
In the same vein, people shouldn't be hung up on certain names. In the
Agreed.
same vein, people shouldn't disqualify a possible employee from hiring them. These are the rules that are set. These are the what we got to live by.
But that's a shame, though, because I also, if you remember the cartoon King of the Hill, right?
I've watched it occasionally.
Golly, you haven't
know.
played Madden. You don't watch King of the
I
Hill.
know.
What do you do, my man?
King of the Hill was never my forte.
Okay, do you remember a character named Boomhauer on there?
I remember how he spoke.
You remember how he spoke?
Yes, I think so.
His speech was basically like this. He said something like, "Hey, the daggone butterfly, man. It flaps wings and daggone tsunami, man. Meaning life, man." And what he was talking about, because I understood him, was the butterfly effect. Thank you. That's my whole point. You have just proven my whole point. They knew exactly what that man was talking about, and he wasn't even talking English, really. He was talking a southern dialect that I am quite not fond of, but I know it, But you proved my whole point right there when you understood exactly what he said.
I have no idea why I said
love
anything. I have no idea why I said anything.
My point is proven. And that's the thing with King of the Hill. They understood Boomhauer and they never criticized him for that. They never criticized him for the way he spoke. And he spoke, sometimes he came correct with some stuff, but they never criticized him. So my thing is, we live in a society that always wants to criticize somebody else about the smallest things. Like even now, you got people who will come on, lives and stuff like that just to troll somebody. And I'm just like, you telling me you took the time to get that app, download it, make a page, find that person's live, go into the live and type some crazy junk to it.
Keyboard
To me,
warriors.
that's too much for me, man. Like, don't you have something else to do better with your time?
I think they're doing it, to be honest with you.
And that's my point with this whole somebody getting on somebody about some correct grammar and whatnot. Like I said, if I'm not speaking a different language or talking like cat, bread, dog, mouse, and that really means I want to go to the lake tomorrow, then if you know what I'm talking about, like demonstrated with Boomhauer, the butterfly effect.
Okay. I apologize for interrupting you, but in my
No, go ahead.
defense, in my personal defense, I'm a huge fan of the movie Butterfly Effect. So I don't think that this example should be a perfect example of understanding that sentence.
Don't try to sugarcoat it now, because
It
what
is what it
happened
is.
already transpired.
It is what
You
it
understood
is.
what I said. You understood what I said, and I really didn't use that many words. And like I said before, some of these same people that are out here, being the FGA, the Federal Grammar Agency, they're going to drop your credit 600 points for you using a preposition in the sentence. Half of these
600 points?
Man, hey, I don't know. It's they made up numbers anyway, if you ask me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But I want to be like some of those people, man. Not all of them ain't even got sense enough to pour piss out a boot, much less tell me how to talk. You got to have some common sense to pour piss out a boot. That's something my grandfather taught me.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Very. He had a couple of sayings that he used to say, and we'll get into that later in these episodes. But like I said before, man, that's one of these things that I think we might just have to have like a rant every week about it, because that burns my biscuits, man, completely.
Burns my biscuits.
I'm putting them nuggets on you today.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Real talk. Since your biscuits were burned, if I'm saying that correctly, let's just say there were a job that you really liked and you wanted to obtain, if you will. Would you go in there speaking the King's English, or would you go in there trying to put on a facade for the man?
Marlon, I got to play the game.
It is a game.
I just don't understand why we playing it. I guess that's my whole point. If you understand what I'm talking about, and I'm not in some subset of language like these young kids nowadays, like Riz is
And
for
Glizzy?
what is Riz for?
I actually had to. What does Glizzy mean? I've heard that.
I
so
think
many
it's a
different
hot
times.
dog, maybe.
I think it's a hot dog.
But I've also heard rappers talk about it's also a firearm. So, I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what they're saying. You can mix and match their words and it means something else. But when Boomhauer spoke about that butterfly flapping its wings in a tsunami, you understood exactly what I was talking about.
I do have a question. Do you think the kids of today who are using the term glizzy or whatever, what was another one you said?
Riz?
Do you think that the generation before us was wondering, why are they saying jive turkey?
Yeah, I'm sure, because like I said, English has evolved, and the terms that we used even when we were growing up, some of the terms we can't use anymore. But we had certain ones that I can't think of them off the top of my head. No, like gnarly,
Gnarly.
you don't remember gnarly?
I remember the name, but I don't know what it means. I mean, I remember the word, but I don't remember what it means.
Okay.
It's a skateboarding term, right?
Well, I mean, you can have a gnarly scar, it's, you know what I'm saying? Something like that. But I'm just saying, I just don't like the grammar police coming here and telling me I need to talk a certain way for you to understand me, even even though what I said, you really did understand me. I think it gives people a high horse to sit themselves on,
Got you.
to where they can look down on people and say, well, they're not as smart as I, because I use the King's English of some guy who's been buried for the last 550 years, who probably, like I said, was around his neighbor and said, I want to develop this so I can talk better than they.
They want to sound supercilious. Got you.
Whatever that word means.
Got you. All right. Well, I guess that's our time.
Thanks
My
so
name is
much,
Marlon.
James.
My name is Marlon.
Have a good one.